How does the different registers used in communicating with different individuals differ between the generation before and the generation now in different contexts? Today, we are going to find out. Hello, I am Ronah Bejc, a representative of the Lisay City. And welcome to my little show called Late Night Talks with Ronah. So wear something comfortable because today we are talking about the findings of the survey that we have conducted about language registers from the past weeks. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. But before we do that, let me share to you some overview or some of the responses that we have gathered from our interviewees. Roll VTR. Generation before, when introducing a girlfriend or boyfriend to elders.
This is Sunho, my boyfriend. He is the breadwinner of his family. He graduated college already and is working on 2 jobs. He is smart, responsible, and hardworking person.
Versus generation today.
Hey Nana, hi, how are you? Now I'd like you to meet my boyfriend. This is Joshua. We met on a dating app, but there's no need to worry, Nana. We're just doing fine. He's been so good to me, and we got along just fine, okay?
Okay, so now did you notice the difference? What you just witnessed is a conversation, an intimate conversation between a grandchild and a grandparent. When comparing the generation before, we can see that she was trying so hard to convince her pops that she is dating someone with a secured future and background by choosing her words carefully. This is because in the past, it is believed that the person you introduce to your family is a person you are sure to marry. On the other hand, in the generation today, we can observe that he's more confident and have more courage to speak up. It was shown that he was not even afraid of the words that he was using, like dating app, which the older generation would interpret as randomly meeting strangers on the internet, which is scary and dangerous. There is also a big difference in how we address them. In the generation before, they usually address their elders as Lola and Lolo. Simple. In the generation today, there are more variety. We call them Nana, Mamila, Paps, and Dadilo. Moving on to the parents. When apologizing for getting low grades.
I'm sorry, Mom. I'll study harder next time.
Versus generation today.
Dad, even the smartest student in our class got a low grade in this subject. Whew.
Now, let me ask you again. Did you notice the difference? What we just witnessed is another intimate conversation, but this time between a parent and a child. In the generation before, it was very common for the children to be afraid of showing the report cards to their parents because of the fear that they will disappoint their parents. Hence, the older generation usually settled to just talking less and keeping their mouths shut. Education was considered as the only thing that parents can inherit to their children, so being a failure in school will make the older generation really guilty. While this is also true for the generation today, the youth nowadays are getting more and more strategic with using the right words that would not get them in trouble. To address them in the generation before, Mama, Papa, Nanay, Tatay, and today we call them the same, but some use Mommy, Momsh, Paps, Daddy. Moving on to teachers. When the teacher punished them for behaving inappropriately.
I am very sorry, sir. I will take sincerely the punishment of having to write a 5-page apology letter.
Versus generation today.
My parents will hear about this. They will hear about this, okay? We will see you in the principal's office. They will contact you for sure.
Ooh, the last one was kind of feisty. But did you notice the difference in the consultative conversation between the teacher and the student? In the generation before, it was very common for students to write a "I am sorry, I promise not to do it again" letter or paper to their teachers. Or facing the wall or sitting on the air. Have you personally experienced that? But for the generation today, young people are more aware of their rights and their freedom of speech and expression, not only as students, but also as human beings. If the older generation would just drop the subject and not talk about it, the generation today would choose to bring up the subject, talk about it and address what needed to be done. But of course, as what Catriona Gray has said,
everything is good, but in moderation.
in terms of how we address them, in the generation before, they are addressed as ma'am, sir, madam, the usual. Today, we address teachers as ma'am, sir, miss, prof. Moving on to the religious leaders. During a confession with a priest.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. It has been 2 weeks since my last confession.
Versus generation today.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been a month since my last confession.
This is a bit interesting. Besides the difference of when they last confessed to a priest, we can tell that the style of conversation between the older generation and the new generation does not really change. In other words, it is frozen in time. Most of the words and phrases used in the church does not really change. And I said most because there are phrases that were changed by the church. For example, in response to "the Lord be with you," today we say "and with your spirit." But the old response, if you remember, was "and also with you." But again, changing of phrases in the church or in a mass rarely happens. In addressing religious leaders, the older generations say father, mother, sister, brother. Today we say father, mother, lay, brad, sis. And for the last one, we have peers. When sharing a secret to a friend.
I have to tell you something, but you can say it to others.
Versus generation today.
Me to the T to the W, sister. I have a tea to spill and it's still hot, so I will FaceTime with you later, okay?
One big thing that we can observe is how people of today's generation are so used to constant connectivity, giving them more ways to communicate, like FaceTime, as what we have seen earlier. Old generation likes to keep it simple, and in contrast, people of today's generation are more likely to use abbreviations and acronyms such as BTW, which means by the way. They also have jargon such as spilling the tea, which means sharing a secret or sharing a gossip. They may also use emojis in their text messages to convey their sentiments. Okay, so let us wrap it all up. When communicating with elders, majority of the language register used by the generation before and the generation today is intimate. However, when speaking to an elder whom a person is not familiar with or is not blood related, formal or consultative register may be used. As to conversation with parents, intimate and formal language registers are used. However, there are moments when casual registers are used, especially when getting into heated arguments with parents. Though formal and consultative conversation are usually used in conversing with teachers, there are also moments like that of the parents where casual registers are used, especially during heated arguments. However, it is observed that casual conversations with parents and teachers are more common in the generation today than in the generation before. Furthermore, when communicating with religious leaders, the group found out that it is always formal because using casual language register may be inappropriate. In terms of mass phrases and responses, it is always the static language register being used because the phrases and responses used in church are rarely changed. Lastly, conversations with peers, majority use casual language. But since in the generation today, many people consider their friends as part of their families, intimate language register is used. People in today's generation are more inclusive in the words and phrases that they use, which results to a more welcoming conversation. Unlike the generation before, today's generation are not hesitant to speak up. They are more digital and are transparent with their words. Our interview included various language registers and expressions that depict the relationship between the interviewer and the interviewee. Also, in order to determine the level of formality, we included the profession and the age of the people that we have interviewed and used it as an opportunity to act within the range of our language register. In our analysis and comparison with all the responses that we have gathered from our interviewees, we came to a conclusion that a speaker may move from one language register to another effortlessly. For instance, in the generation today, most of our peers, we consider them as part of our family. Hence, instead of using casual register, we use intimate register instead. However, take note that skipping one or more levels of language register may be considered inappropriate and even offensive. Now we can really say that there is an evolution with regards to how language registers are used, and this depends on factors such as the audience, topic, purpose, and even the location. Hence, it is really important that a person must learn to understand and control the use of language registers in different contexts, especially when such person is culturally and linguistically diverse. This is to ensure understanding and success in every aspect of the communication process. And I think that concludes the sharing of the findings from the survey that we have conducted for the past week. Again, this is Ronah Bejoc, and along with my friends from Talisay City, thank you for watching my mini show, Late Night Talks with Ronah. See you in the next episode. Bye!